This is the Creative Cloud version of Lightroom. We're going to start off here. This is the traffic circle in Shanghai, China. First thing we're going to do is we're going to set our white balance. So let's look for a neutral. Now you probably saw the difference that made. Now here's something interesting that this Creative Cloud has. It's got automatic artificial intelligence. Adobe has tens of thousands of photographs, probably hundreds of thousands of photographs that they have cataloged in their library. And when you hit automatic focus here, not automatic focus, automatic color here, this is what happens. It's a compilation of what average photos have. And there we had our basic color change suggestion. This isn't necessarily exactly what you want to do, but it's a starting place. Now, let's work with the geometry. Well, of course we want to remove chromatic aberrations and do our lens correction. Adobe recognizes that I was using a Nikon lens and it sets the distortion for the picture, for the lens distortion for the picture. But notice here in the upper corner, we're not square. This building seems to be leaning. And this building also is showing some of the lens distortion. That's a $1,800 lens too, so don't think that if you've got a fancy camera you don't have lens distortion. I promise you it's there. So what we're going to do is geometry down here. We click on geometry and go to guided. Now what that does is we're going to do a trace here. Right down, let's take this rod and mark it, and then we're going to take the edge of this building. Now when I release the mouse, watch how it alters the distortion. Okay, now we're square. Now we're square. Now, there's one more thing about this image that I will note. Excuse me. This is an arc, a circle. I'm on the other side of the circle. And it makes it hard to really tell exactly whether we're level or not. So instead of worrying about whether we're level or not at this point, I'm going to export to Photoshop. Now we're in the Photoshop screen, and already it's looking pretty good. Now what are a few things we can do to improve it? Well, let's start off by using a radial filter, which convert for smart filters, camera raw filter, all right, this is the camera raw screen here, and we're going to tip this for our radial filter, and we're going to reset everything. As most of you probably know that use Adobe regularly, just double clicking on all the settings will zero it again for you. Now we want to create a radial filter across here. Alrighty. Now we have basically encircled the entire traffic island with the exception of the upright part, which is going to be a little trickier than the bottom. What we'd like to do is we want to pull the highlights slightly back and push the shadows and see how it's bringing out the flowers. And we're going to pull down the blacks a little bit to give us a bit more contrast. Now this is a feature called clarity. And just a touch of it is good medicine. I don't want to get carried away here, so we're going to let that do it for here. Now the area over here is also a little bit dark. Whoops. So we're going to come right out here with this place and we're going to lighten it up. First of all, we'll push the shadows a little more because pushing the shadows seems to have less effect on the picture than pushing the saturation or some of the other options. Now, do we see anything else? I'm not sure we couldn't bring out these people a little better, so I'm going to try to bring them up. But here, I think I'm going to increase the exposure instead of, pull that back down a tad, instead of using the shadow, because that's not in the shadow. Now you can see that's got a little bit more depth to it with the colors brought out back of the traffic circle. Well, here we're at the point where you can spend a whole lot more time dealing with tiny things, but basically you got a picture here that's entirely useful. There's no glaring defects, and that's the way I go about editing something like this. Thanks for watching.